All right, NBA regular season is getting wrapped up. Most teams have maybe one or two games left before the regular season wraps up. And the main thing most people are talking about right now, with all the awards coming up, is this 65 game rule. People will talk about that in relation to like the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and awards like that. We'll just look really quick here. I'm going to get to Bill Walton in a second. MVP voters, I know Stephen A. Smith has an MVP vote. I think Stephen A. Smith is probably smart, but he just acts like a dumbass a lot of the time just to be entertaining or whatever it is. But the voters aren't stupid. The voters, someone's not going to play 50 games or 45 games and win the MVP for the most part. That's only happened. Here are all the previous winners from 25 and on. There was one that surprised me. Just a gross human being. Karl Malone, he played 49 games. If y'all see right here, he played 49 games in the 98-99 season. He won the MVP playing 49 games somehow. And he probably went up to the voters and said he's going to go touch their 13-year-old children if they don't vote for him. That's all the Karl Malone talk will do. Karl Malone is a disgusting human being, but for whatever reason, he played 49 games and won the MVP. I'm 32 years old. I'm not going to act like I was watching that season because I was way too young. But Karl Malone just a gross dude. Other than that, though, yeah, he played under 50 games. He only played 49 games and won the MVP, which is ridiculous. That one just maybe kind of a blemish on there because other than Karl Malone, that one year, if y'all see just 82, 82, 82, 81, 80, 76 for Charles Barkley. Keep going down. Eventually, we'll get to Bill Walton's season. So that was 77-78. Bill Walton won the MVP, only playing 58 games. It's weird. I don't hear people bring up the Karl Malone season. People bring up the Bill Walton season more for whatever reason. But every chance we have to not talk about the Utah Jazz power forward, we just won't talk about him. I'm off Karl Malone. People talk about the Bill Walton season, though. He played 58 games. He won MVP that season. And we'll get to what happened with Bill Walton. So 77-78 season right here, the Blazers had won 50 of their first 60 games. So they only lost 10 games out of their first 60 games. Bill Walton gets his injury. He breaks his foot. So right here, he has a broken foot, which ends his regular season. So after he broke his foot, they sat him down those last 22 games of the season. And Portland ends up finishing the season 58-24. So they're 50-10 through the first 60 games. They're 50-10. Then those last 22 games, they lose 8. They go off 14-8. So in those last 22 games, they lost more games than they had lost for the first 60 games, and it's really because of Bill Walton. His numbers, he was 19 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2.5 blocks in the 58 games. Doesn't sound like incredible MVP numbers, but the voters ended up voting for Bill Walton. He breaks his foot. Bill Walton had injury concerns his entire career. He didn't even play in half the games. He played like 400 of his possible 1,100 games. It was something right around there. So Bill Walton, he always had injury concerns, and he's a player you probably want to use load management for. They didn't do that back then, but he'd be a great example of a really, really good player. He goes down as an all-time great, and if load management was a concept back then, he probably has an even longer, even better career. Moving on though, I saw one thing that was pretty crazy in here. There was one thing when he broke his foot right down here. So he had broke his foot in the regular season, comes back for the playoffs, and then he broke his foot in game two against Seattle. He breaks his foot. I don't know if it was already broken or if it had kind of healed by then, but they did the x-rays and they saw you have the shit broken. You broke the shit out of your foot. So they're saying here it's crazy. After having received a pain-killing injection to play, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. I'm right. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure players today aren't getting injected with painkillers during the game to keep on playing. Players back in those days, back in the 70s, 80s, they would take Vicodins and shit. They'd be doing painkillers pretty much regularly just to play through injuries. And again, it's not the best way to have a long career for yourselves. Going on, just one more thing I noticed. once he got traded to Boston, they're doing like his initial x-rays once he gets to Boston, kind of see how his body's looking. So this is Walton's story. He says Red Auerbach. If you don't know, he's the Celtics legend. I think he was GM owner, the dude that's always smoking a cigar. But Red walks in the hospital, says, "Who are you guys? What are you doing with my player?" They said he walks in the hospital smoking a cigar, so that's pretty fucking badass. The doctor is saying, Red, come here. Look at this. Look at his feet. Look at his face. We can't pass this guy. So the literal doctors are saying this guy is not healthy. This guy can't be playing basketball. He's not fit to play from the physical, basically. They're saying his foot is all jacked up. I don't know if they're saying he should retire at that time, but they're basically saying, look at his feet, look at his face. I guess Bill Walton was sitting there just with like a fucking heartbroken face, just saying the doctors probably already told him he can't play. And then he's kind of coming to that realization himself, and he's probably bummed out. So they're saying, look at his feet, look at his face. We can't pass this guy. Red Auerbach says, shut up, I'm in charge here. Which is fucking hilarious. You're not a doctor, dude. But anyway, pushes his way through the doctors, comes over. He asks Bill, he says, Walton, can you play? Bill Walton looks at him with sad puppy dog eyes. He just wants one more chance to be part of something special. Whatever. Bill Walton looks at him and says, Red, I think I can play. I think I can play. It's almost like a mafia boss comes up to you and says, hey, do you have that money, bro? You better have that money. I think I have it. I'm going to get it. So basically, what I'm seeing here, looks like Red Auerbach almost just peer pressured him into playing. He ends up playing. They end up winning a championship with Boston as well. So I guess things came out okay in the end. Just thought that was funny how Red Auerbach is basically intimidating him. This feels like an intimidation tactic and just intimidated him into playing. Back to the load management, the 65-game rule, though. Walton won the MVP that year in 78, and he only played 58 games. But again, I was showing y'all, they'd won 50 of their first 60 games. So they were literally 50-10 their first 60 games. Those last 22 games, they lose 8 of those games. So they go 14-8. The past 22 games, they lost pretty much just as many games that last little stretch as they did the first 60 games. So Bill Walton was obviously really impactful for the team. Again, I wasn't watching basketball very heavily back then. I was like 6 years old, but seems like he was deserving of the MVP. But back to the 65-game rule, though. Again, I'll just leave it right here. This is like the past 25 years, basically. In the past 25 years, most of these players are playing at least 60 games or more. My point would be, if I could have like Joel Embiid for 60 games, or I could have, who's just a random player I could use, Joel Embiid for 60 games, or I could have Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet is injured right now. It's not a shot at Fred VanVleet, but if I could have Fred VanVleet for 82 games or Joel Embiid for even 55 games, give me 55 games of Joel Embiid. I know Joel Embiid is going to have a larger impact on the season throughout the 55 games, even though Fred VanVleet, whatever other player you might want to use, is going to play more games and be more durable. I heard someone make the point, they're using the baseball analogy. Back in the day, pitchers would pitch every single game just over and over, and they tear the shit out of their shoulder. They throw out their elbow, whatever it is. Now, I don't watch baseball heavily, but I've heard people saying pitchers usually pitch maybe once or twice a week. If your pitcher pitches one game, they're probably going to take off 2 or 3 games before they pitch again because they're load managing their shoulder. It doesn't mean your pitcher is not going to have a huge impact on the season, because they probably will, even if they're load managing themselves. So kind of back to my original point, the voters aren't voting for guys that played 50 or 55 games for the most part, other than the Utah Jazz power forward, who we won't name, that won with only 49 games. So voters are already taking this into account. The main thing, Adam Silver runs the NBA like a business. It is a business, so I get it. But all Adam Silver, just fucking dollar signs in his eyes. All he cares about is how much money the NBA makes. If SGA, Jokic, Wemby, and Luka, if all 4 of those players missed the entire season and the NBA made more money than it ever had before in that season, Adam Silver would say, this is fucking awesome. This is the best season the NBA has ever had. Look at how much fucking money we made. So Adam Silver, he doesn't care about the product so much. He doesn't care about the fans and the fans' viewing experience so much. All he cares about is how much money the NBA made that season. All he sees is the dollar signs. So let me know what y'all think. I think the 65 game rule, I can kind of see it from both sides. I think it is stupid. Again, if Fred VanVleet plays 66 games and Joel Embiid plays 65 games, we know who the more impactful player is. We know Joel Embiid had a bigger impact on the season than Fred VanVleet. There's all different examples you could use. Let's say like a Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's played most of the games this season. Wemby has played less games than Jaylen Brown, but Wemby's been, in my opinion, far more impactful than Jaylen Brown throughout the whole season. So those are two players that are closer to each other in terms of impact. Wemby played less games. You might disagree with me, but I think Wemby's been just obviously, not even any argument, more impactful than Jaylen Brown. But all Adam Silver sees is the dollar signs. I think it's a stupid rule. I think they should just completely remove the rule. But I mean, I get Adam Silver's point as well. Adam Silver, just probably a couple days ago, he was saying, I think the rule is working. He came up and said, I'm not going to say it's not working because I think it is working. Victor Wembanyama had his injured rib. He came out and he played just last night, the other night. He came out and played the game, and he got his 25, 30 minutes, however many minutes he played, just so we could meet that 65 game requirement so we can unanimously win Defensive Player of the Year for the first time ever in NBA history. But again, the voters, for the most part, only one time in the past literally one time in the past like 28 years has a player with less than 50 games won the MVP. Then you go back the past fucking 40 years, back to when Bill Walton won it back in 78, and only two times in a 40-year sample size has somebody won the MVP playing 60 games or less. So again, it's not like the voters are stupid. I think Stephen A. Smith he's just a troll a lot of the time. I think he is really smart and he does know basketball, but he just likes to troll people all the time. But the voters aren't stupid. They're gonna vote for the They're gonna vote for the player. Another one right here, LeBron James. He won in 2012, 62 games played. He was the most impactful player in basketball, probably for like a 5-year stretch or longer than that, from 2009 until like 2015, 16. LeBron was probably the best player in basketball. So the voters, they're going to take games played into account. It's not like they just totally ignore that. So again, back to my original point, this rule is all about the bottom line. It's all about making money. They want the star players to be out there. So fans pay more money to go see the star players play. And I get that point of view. I guess Adam Silver is thinking the Victor Wembanyama example. He played 64 games. He wouldn't have played that 65th game unless that rule was in place. So, good for you, Adam Silver. You got Victor Wembanyama to play one more game this season. My last point, Tyrese Halliburton, he tore his Achilles in the finals just last year. Tyrese Halliburton, he was playing through a calf injury for probably the last few months or so of the season. He's playing through a calf injury. He was on a podcast with I forget who it was, but they're basically asking him, if the 65 game rule didn't exist, would you have played through that calf injury and give yourself a higher risk of getting injured, which is what ended up happening in the playoffs? And Tyrese Halliburton said, for sure he gets it was like 40, 50 million. There was some sort of incentive where if he doesn't hit 65 games played, he wouldn't have gotten that incentive. So he plays through his calf injury, plays more games than he would have played if the rule wasn't in place. So on Adam Silver's side, good for you, Adam Silver. We get to see Tyrese Halliburton play more games in the season. And then he plays through the calf injury where he could have been resting. He could have rested it up even more before the playoffs start. And then maybe he doesn't end up tearing his Achilles in game 7. So, you hear the old head players are saying, oh, these guys just don't want to play. They don't want to play basketball anymore today. And all the star players want to play. They just get injured more than they did back in the day. And then the old head players, Charles Barkley and Shaq, all these fucking players are soft. We would have played all these games. If I was playing today, I'd play fucking 83 games. No, you wouldn't, dude. The game just moves way faster. People move way more off ball. The ball is swinging around. Players players are more athletic, if you want to admit that or not. Players just are more athletic. There's just way more lateral movement, way more ball movement, and you have to close out 5 or 6 different times in one possession. You're running out to close out on a shooter and coming back and just running back and forth so much. All the Euro steps, all the different moves players do, so much, so much sudden lateral movement, so many changes of what direction you're going in. Where back in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, I remember even watching the Spurs up until like 1999, just dump the ball down low to Tim Duncan. Everyone's spotted up, just waiting to get the ball kicked out for an open three. You pass the ball down to Micheal Jordan. He's ISO'd. He's in the post. Everyone's standing around and watching the game happen. Maybe someone makes a back cut. Maybe some things happen, but not nearly as much as there is today with just all sorts of off-ball screens, all sorts of off-ball actions. Again, the players are more athletic than they used to be. There's more athletes just top to bottom. The league just has way more athletes than it used to have back then. And again, just all the lateral movement, just the way the ball moves, the pace of the game. I think it's really the three ball, to be honest. You kick it out. Somebody might shoot the three from 40 feet away. You're running as fast as you can to close out, hit you with a pump fake. Now you slam the brakes. You're stopping from 100 miles an hour. They blow by you. You're making a violent lateral movement to try to keep up with them. And the game is just it's just way more high paced. The 80s was high paced as well, but just with the way the floor is spaced out, all the ground players have to cover these days. That's why players are getting injured more than ever, in my opinion. The game is just so spaced out. You have to cover more ground than you ever had to cover back in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. So I hate hearing Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley and all these players from back then just saying, oh, these guys are soft. They just don't want to play, because they do want to play. They're just getting injured more than ever with how fast the game is and the way the court is spaced out these days. But let me know what y'all think. I think the 65 game rule, I think it's stupid, to be honest. Again, the point I made, I think it's like three or four players in the past 40 years that have won MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, without playing at least 60 or more games. So I think it is a stupid rule, and I don't think the NBA is just going to do away with the rule, at least not by next year. Maybe years down the line they will. They're probably going to start tweaking the rule, maybe make more exceptions for the rule. I think Luka's going to get an exception this year because he went to witness the birth of his child, and I think you definitely should get an exception for something like that, but just a stupid rule in my opinion. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 7 million subscribers. Let me know what you think about this 65 game rule. If you think it's stupid, if you think it has any benefit. I think it just has no benefit in the game, to be honest. If you know you're hurt, if we're at like game 60 and there's 22 games left in the season, you know you have a nagging injury and you want to get healthy going into the playoffs, and in order to get healthy, you're going to have to play 65 games or less. I'd much rather see my superstar players healthy in the playoffs than I'd want to see them healthy in the season, if that makes sense. But please like the video, hate the video, do something to it. We'll see y'all next time.